Okay.
Whatever you want to do.
Yeah, I may have to
So,
step. Mm.
it's up to
There's
you.
just so much to talk
Yeah,
about that event, actually. It was kind of a complex one, and I don't
yeah,
know.
yeah, I agree. So anyway, I'm gonna put my game face on. I'm gonna try not to.
All right.
So tired. I'm guessing it's probably up by now, but
Yes. Well, at least it's recorded.
yeah, I'm just waiting for it to you know prove it to me. Prove it to me, YouTube.
Prove it.
Prove it. There we go. My game face on. We're here. Oh, yep, I can hear myself talk, so okay.
Echo, echo.
Hey, hola. Good evening. Guten Tag. How many other languages do I know? Buenos dias. Not many, but so
Добрый
today,
вечер.
yeah. So today we have another special Space Weather Unplugged, because we have another event to talk about. We were going to discuss what happened the last couple days, but then some X flare had to happen yesterday that was like disk. So now we're going to talk about that. So here we go. Um, I have Tanya and Christian here like always because they're the greatest people in the world. And I just got home from a 5-day workshop and I'm running on no sleep, so it's fun. But here
Yay.
we go. So I guess we'll start. I'll hand it off to Christian at first. We'll talk.
That works for me.
We'll talk about imagery because it is a pretty one.
This
Very,
is an awesome CME to look at. Not only that, but the flare. I
yeah.
mean, everything about it was awesome, really. So what we're going to look at first, just for the fun of it, is the standard 131 imaging, which this is really good for sensing super hot plasma and is usually where you want to go to see the flares whatsoever. Didn't really need a guide for this one, though. In fact, you know what? Let's just zoom in on this just to have it look good. And I'm just going to play it. This is, again, region 3848. And it was pretty bright. Now, keep in mind, this is an X1, not an X7, not an X8, not an X12. This was much less as far as the magnitude reached for the flare, and the CME was way stronger than anything we've seen. I can easily say, actually, the solar cycle.
Oh
As
yeah.
far as Earth-directed CMEs are concerned, we have not seen anything of this magnitude yet. The only reason we even had the May 10th and 11th Gannon storms was due to the fact that we had multiple CMEs hit us that were decent. This is just one gigantic big one, alongside with some few other ones. But the point is, we're still looking at imagery, so I will get to that. The dimming is also one of my favorites.
It's quite pretty.
That's so pretty.
It's it's the probably I don't know. It's the best I've seen in a while.
Yeah. So this imagery looks at, you pick a standard time, and then this imagery adds up all the changes from that time period onward. So I picked a very quiet time on this, but boom. Now, all of this black area, that is all evacuated regions from the corona. That is all areas that are being evacuated as a CME, which we haven't really, I've never seen one that big. I really don't think I have, at least in my knowledge. I mean, we have a shockwave that goes all the way through too. It's just an absolutely insane region. I also want to add, since Tanya pointed this out, and thank you again, Tanya, that the coronal hole that's here, it even expanded and changed that territory. We've got a polar coronal hole up here, and then after the flare, it decreases and fills in quite a bit all the way down south, which honestly, there's a good chance that this coronal hole will affect us now because of its elongatedness from the south, or to the south, I should say. So pretty impressive. And then 171 is always pretty to look at. I like doing it in combination with 304 just for the loops on here that start forming. I love JHelio Viewer. So much fun.
I do too. It gives you
Boom.
so much.
Oh, I guess some of the frames are still loading. Whoops.
That's which is funny because
Anyway,
it's been up for a while. So it's like it.
I changed the timing on the 304. I forgot,
Oh
and
yeah,
that
that's
didn't
right.
load. But the point is, check out all of these neat coronal loops forming. They form in the wake of the CME. They are called post-eruption arcades.
Fun fact.
And then finally, our other fun one, Glasgow imagery. Now, I want to note, I'm going to go ahead and take it out of the difference imaging because it's hard to see otherwise. Comet Atlas, I'm not going to say the first name, I just can't say it, but Comet Atlas is now in view in Glasgow C3. This comet is going to be possibly as bright as Neowise, if not already brighter. I think it's at magnitude +1 right now.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
We should see it come up, I want to say October 11th in our evening sky now, and it'll just get higher and higher in the sky, but it's going to get dimmer and dimmer as it does, so be sure to catch it as soon as you can. I think there's guides as how to do that, but that's not part of the stream. Anyway, point being, let's do standard imagery first. I really hate how they chose red for one and the blue for the other. So we're going to go ahead and just change it to the same just because. Oh, probably not at 35 frames per second with 17 frames, though. That would be a good thing.
I like how you can see the radiation storm, all the little
Yeah,
the
Yeah.
it's a
snow.
nice full halo, and then we get the snow effect, which is the high energy protons bombarding the sensors. But what I really want to point out is just look at the complexity of the CME. I like how we have half of a frame in C3 too that decides not to load.
You know,
There we go.
just to add to the joys of this.
And then looking at the imagery on it, at least the running imagery, or the base imagery rather. I mean, it's a complex CME in the sense that it's also a couple other ones from the sounds of it, as film interrupted not long before it and made it a little more complex. But it's fast too. It was about 1,500 and I want to say 30 kilometers per second, depending on how you measured it, which is not a super, super fast one, but it is faster than we normally get facing the Earth, at least for this cycle.
Yeah, what was
Uh,
that last one? Like 500 or something?
oh
The,
God, yeah, like 4 or 5. I mean, it was almost slower than ambient solar wind speed, if I'm not mistaken.
yeah, they were just little piddles.
Little wisps, and that's why really none of us were really that excited for them. I mean, the shows we got Saturday and Sunday were, or Sunday, Monday were a little bit more than we thought we were going to get, to be quite honest. But we still weren't that excited for them. And then let's do base imagery there. I just like repeating this multiple times, but point
Okay.
is, big CME coming. ATAs as of right now, according to most offices, are anywhere from 1500 UTC tomorrow, which is about 4 a.m. Sorry, 11 a.m. Eastern time, at least. Or I know there's a few other ones that are doing it later with the filament modeling. That might be a little more accurate to be a little closer. I'll leave Tanya to do the arrival date on that one because I'll be honest, I don't remember. I believe that's all I had for imaging. We can look at the sunspot too. That's probably the most, I guess, that we would look at.
Yeah, 'cause
But it
that's
really,
cool
it's
looking.
not that big. Sorry, it's big. It's
Yeah.
not that complex. So let's look at that in detail here. So really mostly simple. The catcher on this one, the northern hemisphere leading polarity is positive. That means the positive polarity is moving southward towards the equator. Well, this one happens to have a bunch of negative polarity groups that have popped up underneath of it, which is where the clash is coming from, is my assumption. Well, I guess not even the assumption, because you can watch. Let's do the magnetogram plus 131. And we'll make the 131 fade. There we go. And you can watch it starts from around this region here is what causes it, and then it ends up over here as well, which is kind of funny. Again, it's not the most complex region I've ever seen. It's pretty big for a single sunspot, but really this is kind of a surprise for what I expected to come from a region like this.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah, I'd say so.
And that's all I have for imagery.
Rock
Move
on.
on, Tanya, for the modeling then.
All
Yeah.
right, let's cover some models. Let's start, well, first of all, um, let's start with things that started way before the flare and that filament liftoff. There was another filament in the Southwest that was modeled by M2M NASA, and it is arriving as a glancing blow sometime around early October 11th. So that would put it into late um, tomorrow, actually, for North America.
This is all happening so
Um,
soon.
I know,
yeah,
so
it's
soon.
all happening so soon, but that
So
eruption
soon.
happened, that filament liftoff was earlier
What, the
before the
8th?
flare up by quite a few hours. It is a glancing blow, so it's not expected to deliver much. But again, filaments have been known to be unpredictable in terms of density, speed, and magnetic field that they carry. So that's going to be fun to watch because it created a little bit of a traffic jam for the next eruption. And that is where we're coming to this monster. So that modeled
Ooh.
as pretty much a direct hit.
Mm.
And it's arriving much earlier. Except again, this is a single CME model, so it doesn't account for other things that are in interplanetary space and creating a bit of a traffic jam. Um, who do we have that actually is doing this work? We have we have NOAA official model that puts it at KP8. Again, we'll talk about KP in a second, but it is also running that model as a single CME, so probably a little bit earlier arrival compared to what is realistic. And that's putting it into early morning for us. So not so fun. Early morning to maybe afternoon, which is not really favorable to us. You can see that arrival time pretty sharp. Um,
Yeah.
so who else do we have that's doing this work? Well, we have Met Office. And they managed to get both filament and the X-Flare CME into one model,
Ooh,
which actually created a very interesting picture because we do have that arrival that happened that supposedly was a filament. How much of it will survive after it gets hit by the X-Flare CME because that filament is traveling much slower compared to X-Flare CME. But that may create a very interesting compound event. And if you take into consideration that we have another filament that lifted off before the X flare, we have essentially three things that are traveling in the interplanetary space. How it's going to arrive and whether or not we're going to see something out of it or what exactly we're going to see out of it, nobody knows. One thing we know, so let's kind of work over the uncertainties of the forecast. Are we sure things are coming? Yes, very high certainty of arrival. What is our certainty in terms of time? It's moderate. We know it's coming. We know the speed. We can't really model everything that happens in the interplanetary space. But if you are modeling this together with a filament that was earlier, that probably going to push that arrival time a little bit later. So
yep.
probably for North America into late afternoon, potentially early to late evening, with the usual prediction error of 7 to 12 hours on either end. So that's going to be a lot of fun to monitor.
Yeah.
And finally, in terms of a KP, we really don't know. For CMEs that are fast and may survive as sort of a flux rope, so there's going to be a stronger magnetic field up front, so it can create some disturbance from the beginning. If it has a decent magnetic field that's connecting with Earth, that magnetic field, it's going to create some nice storming to begin with. That is a big if because we don't know what it's traveling and dragging with it on its way. And then finally, when the flux rope is hitting, so that's a magnetic cloud, that's actually the core of the CME. Depending on what it has, that's sort of a second time when we can see some storming and potentially aurora. So in terms of aurora forecast, we really don't have a clue. And if anybody tells you that it's going to be at this time and it's going to be great and it's going to be KP8, we don't know. It may be, but it may be not. So don't chase forecast KP. Don't chase the real-time KP. Um, Join the group, find the app that actually works, and we know which one works. If
Glendale.
you are, yeah, the Glendale app. And if you are adventurous and really want to do the work yourself, you can definitely do that. There are great tools out there. Unfortunately, none of them made it to the SWIPSI Aurora dashboard. I hope they change it in the future.
Oops.
It's all right. They do have
Ironic.
they have different stakeholders. They are
Yeah,
really,
it's
there
all
is
good.
no money in, there is no risk in
Yeah.
Aurora. So they're trying to protect our assets in space and near Earth environment. They're trying to protect our assets on the ground, which is power lines. So that's what they're after. They want the infrastructure to be forewarned and they want infrastructure to survive. Whether or not Aurora happens, well, if it doesn't, that's okay. And if it does, hey, great for us.
Keep in
Yeah.
mind, Tanya, you triggered this rant. So in that case, with that being their philosophy, and it is their philosophy, they still have an Aurora dashboard that they like to put out Aurora forecast for and claim, at least on the website, that you can look at it as an Aurora forecast. Nothing on the Swipsy website is good for Aurora hunting, at least in terms of the forecasting and the dashboard in general. Yeah.
Yeah,
So still
that
bugs
needs,
me quite a bit.
yeah, I would agree. That needs to change. Maybe
Well,
it will change over time. So finally, forecast from Huck's Tea, and that's from the University of Reading. And again, pretty tight ensemble, so fairly high degree of certainty in arrival. It's 100%. They did model a filament that erupted earlier, and they give it a low probability of arrival, only 7.6%. So it may or may not happen, likely won't happen. Again, it's filaments, so we really don't know what they do until they arrive or don't arrive. And well, they are also pushing it a little bit later into October 11th. So that would be late evening for us and potentially overnight for tomorrow instead of earlier. But ultimately, we will know when it's here, when it hits the monitoring satellites at L1. That's all we have to do is wait.
Can
wait,
anyone guess my favorite part of this ensemble?
yeah.
The giant spiking line that goes over
Yeah,
the speed.
I
Yeah,
noticed that too
maxing
because
out.
that's the first time I've seen that.
I think it did for the combo
Hmm.
in May, if I'm
Oh,
not
did it?
mistaken,
Okay.
too. I
Yeah,
I mean,
and
think.
it did.
actually
Every
for
time,
the
didn't.
G3 over the weekend, we had the same picture.
Oh,
Oh, I did
really?
not know that.
The one that didn't really
The one
happen,
that didn't pan out, that one. Yeah.
but ended up
Certainty
being.
was much lower on that one, if I remember right, too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I like seeing this 100% though. That's pretty confident.
that's pretty high certainty. Yeah.
That's pretty
I've
high.
only
All right.
seen maybe two other 100%, I want to say.
Yeah, it's usually
All right.
don't. Usually it's always even if they're pretty certain, it's always like 99.9 or
You know,
something.
Mm-hmm.
Because
I mean, it's hard
Well,
to think how this wouldn't hit Earth. I mean, it's stronger than anything ambient wise is going to offer an interplanetary space, and it's a full halo. I mean, there's not
yeah,
really much
it's
way you
pretty
can fight it.
obvious.
yeah, looks pretty good. And there is another piece of that coronal hole that opened up. It actually created a little bit of a high-speed stream, and they're notorious for pushing things away from them. CMEs do not like to travel through the high-speed stream, so that created additional push sort of from the pole down to the ecliptic, and that's more likely to arrive our way.
Yeah. Well, that's
So
exciting.
So this has all the makings for a very good event. Possibly, again, maybe Mayworthy. Don't want to actually put those words in anyone's mouth, but I would say we have the potential.
Yeah, I would. It looks pretty darn good. I remember like last night seeing it, and then we were talking about you get the dimming images, and then you get the radio bursts and all that. You're like, well, here we
Crap, I guess we
go.
have more.
I guess we got something to look forward to, even though I really kind of wanted a break. Um,
Who needs sleep? Anybody?
but the
No? Good.
sun waits for
yeah,
nobody and likes to torture us. So here we are.
get some sleep tonight because it might get busy tomorrow
Yeah, that's
or
that.
not.
Yeah, or not. Or if you want to go, yeah, if you want to go out and chase it, I guess, but I would probably wait a day. Or not, I mean not even, but I mean yes, because it's gonna be daytime anyway, so you gotta wait till it gets dark, but you know what I mean.
Sleep
It's
during the day.
it's neither here nor I don't even know what I'm talking about right now, but it's okay. I'm
That's what
tired.
it's about, the rambling.
Yeah. Ramble. Okay, so on that note, we're gonna test my mathematical simple math skills, which is pretty nil right now, and talk about weather forecasts because everything's in Zulu time, so this is fun. So because the weather forecast is not quite as peachy as our current space weather forecast. Can you see that screen all right?
Yep,
I
looks
picked
good.
the right screen? Okay. So we'll start with Windy, my favorite little app here. Um, so let's see, let's move it to Thursday because we're thinking like late Thursday into Friday. So if you look, there's quite a bit of something going on. I lost my thing Thursday, so Friday. Hey, what'd you do? Come back.
Oh no.
See, that looks, wait, that looks different.
Did it just update?
Maybe it just updated because actually this looks better now than it
That's
did.
way better, yeah.
Yeah, it's way better. than it
I have a
did.
screenshot of that same time that you sent us, and that's not what was shown. So
Yeah. So I think this might have updated, and I just didn't. So here you go, live updates. But it actually looks a lot better than it did. Because this was more everything in the upper Midwest was kind of under the thicker clouds, but now it looks like thinner clouds. So hey, that's good. Um, let's see what else we got here. Let's see here, Washington and so the northern tiered part of the West looks good. Um, part of New England. I know if Justin's on here because he's in Maine now, but Maine actually looks okay. Because I think he was having I saw him
he
kind of
missed the last two.
yeah, yeah, I do the cloud cover. But yeah, maybe he'll be in good straights or good good position this time. But let's see, let's go on a little bit. Let's see if it hits a little bit later. But yeah, then it looks like the clouds come in later on Friday. But we'll see. Or at least for Michigan. Minnesota looks good. So yeah. It's gonna be a game with the clouds, like it always is. And there's how many times? Well, May was not everything was clear in May either. So there's only been a few events that I can remember where like everything was kind of cleared out and we had a lot of cloud cover. So you had to play and pick and choose where to go.
Yep.
But this is the European model, so let's see what happens if we click the HRRR, which so HRRR is a little bit more pessimistic, and it tends to be. So let's go to So yeah, HRRR is much more pessimistic on this. So we'll have to keep tabs on this scenario because this one has the major cloud cover coming in. Sorry.
Justin said he was going to put his eclipse glasses on and watch them during the day instead.
Oh, that's good because look at the HRRR has clouds in Maine now too. So we have conflicting weather models, which is not out of the ordinary. They do. Um, the HRRR tends to be the highest resolution one we have, so it's kind of the one we like to go to when you get nearish to an event. It updates hourly, which is nice, versus every 3 hours, 3 to 6 hours on the other ones. Um, but yeah, it's much more pessimistic. So this will be fun to watch. So the key takeaway here is, especially when we got models that don't agree with each other like this, is look at the actual satellite imagery at any given hour and compare it to what the model is seeing. And then you can kind of get a handle on which model is thinking or doing better. Then you can either throw one of them away and kind of make an educated guess on that. But speaking of, I'm gonna go over to pivotal weather because windy because I use the free version. This doesn't update as often. So if you go to pivotalweather.com, you can actually pull these maps for free. And the thing is you have to go through this and convert these times backwards and all that fun stuff, but it's updated every hour. I pulled the 18Z poll because this gives me enough frames to go into tomorrow. Whereas because they will do longer runs, like I think it's 3 or 4 times a day, and then shorter ones throughout the other hours. So this
Interesting.
one that has everything, yeah, has everything into the future that right now. So let's see. I think I put this on about when it would be around midnight or 11 p.m. around midnight for our time tomorrow. Right here, 10, 11, 04Z should be around that time. But this does show a pretty dismal picture. Um, except for Christian. It's nice and clear in Ohio.
Ohio has worth.
Look at that.
We may have to
I mean,
drive
after
there.
seeing them twice now, I guess
Yeah.
I can hunt here now.
So we're all going to Christian's house tomorrow. Get in the car.
Central Ohio.
We're going to Central Ohio because everything else is going to be under clouds. I guess you could go to Indiana. I don't know. I have nothing against Indiana, I guess, but we just know somebody that lives in Ohio.
I got them in my backyard. It's worth it. I promise.
So that being said, keep an eye on the weather. It looks like we do have clouds to contend with, and one particular model is quite pessimistic compared to the other one. So that's all I have to say on that note. Don't, but I like to bring this up because there are people that get super excited about these space weather events and then forget to look at the weather, and then you're driving into the clouds, and we don't want you to do that. So please don't. It's sad. It really is. It'll make you mad too. So check your weather. Check your weather. That's all I gotta say on that. All right. So anyway, we're
True.
back.
Yep.
Do we
Maybe
have any?
virtual chase for us.
Yeah. Let's see. Do we have any? Is there any burning questions out there that need
Well,
to
while we're
be?
looking, I swear, if I'm the only one out of all of us that gets to actually hunt Aurora over the next few days,
That would be funny.
I am going to be bragging for the rest of the year,
Please do, because
especially if I'm successful.
you miss out on so many of them as it is. So you deserve this. You deserve this.
I appreciate it. And fingers crossed. I will be hunting in Ohio if data looks anywhere near good. I don't have a spot I'm going to, but I will at least leave Newark,
Okay.
not my backyard.
Okay. At least something a little darker.
A little darker and a little more scenery.
Yeah,
Yeah.
darker in Ohio.
You can get to Bortle too in Ohio.
That's
You just
true.
have to go
That's
two
not
and a half
bad.
hours east,
It's
southeast.
in the south, right? Like,
Hmm.
what is that? There's a park down there that's,
John Glenn, which
yeah,
I've been to once in my life, but it's 2 hours. It's just far from here. So usually I go up north because I can get up to a Bortle 5 within half an hour,
sweet. All right.
which that's where I went for the May event at least.
Let's- All right. Well, I guess
Brian, stop talking.
what
Just had to mention that. Brian Drill, stop talking. No more comments.
did we want to talk about what happened the last couple days?
Oh, yeah, yeah, we got time.
All
Okay.
right.
So yeah, I mean, I won't well, I'll let you guys handle it too, but it was neat because this was my first ever workshop that I ever taught. And I always tread lightly with it being like an Aurora workshop because living in the middle latitudes, you just don't get it all the time. So I accidentally set the bar way too high for this one. My group got to see it 3 out of the 5 days. 2 of the days, which were particularly good. Sunday, yeah, was it Saturday and the Sunday? We got the G2, and then Sunday and was it, or am I off a day? Whatever. So Sunday and the Monday, which was
Sunday night and Monday night, I think.
yeah,
Yeah,
Sunday or Monday night. So G2 the first night, G3 the second night. And that particular G3 was quite something. To me, it looked visually looked better to me than the May event in terms of the dancing and the colors that we were able to see. But also I was in a lot of pain in May, I'm skewed a little. But
that's fair.
it was very memorable, and it was great to see the group out there just listen to the reactions. And I was pointing out the corona, because you could watch the corona come over. I was like, look, it's gonna happen, and it did. And it was just spectacular. So it was so great that when we saw it the third night, which was last night, and it was just a band going over Lake Superior, just a little band. We were all sitting there watching it, and it was like cool, but everyone's like, you know what, we're tired, let's go. Like we don't need to see it anymore. So it was really awesome. But as far as what that event was, what did we kind of decide on? Was like some like combo?
Oh, I thought we weren't going to talk about it because
No,
we
yeah,
had
I
no
guess we
idea.
don't have to.
No,
A
Um,
just like,
sawtooth event. I'm
yeah,
trying to
Sawtooth.
find the magnetometer stack plot for it, so give me a sec on that. But Christian, if you want to take solar wind part.
I'm okay, yes. So, and again, as far as the actual event, like what it was event wise from the sun that caused it, Monday night, I have not a clue still. Have not been able to figure that part out.
Yeah, I think we're still trying to mull over that data and see.
A little bit. So, let's see. That was the 7th and the 8th, if I'm not mistaken. No, that was the 6th and the 7th. All right. So we'll just start from here, going all the way to here. So really, we had a small enhancement, which didn't seem to do much because it was Northern BZ until what? 1942. So it was early afternoon or late afternoon here at least. And then we just had some planar structure, the magnetic field, and I'm not kidding. I'm going to turn all the components on. And then can I zoom in on this? Oh yeah, there we go. All of the components were almost completely constant. So the magnetic field was just one direction for 5 hours, 6 hours almost. And
Quite
that
the
happened
time.
to include a negative BZ of about -10. So of course we had some very good substorms from that, at least enough to get into an SMC aurora, and then a couple different times where that SMC aurora broke. That was Sunday night, and that was the first photo I got in my backyard, which was barely visible in the camera. But I also missed the end of the substorm, so I was like, okay, you know what? That's fine, whatever. I don't care. Well, then we get to the next night, which was this night here. Now I know we have a I guess I'm not necessarily a confusion, but the flux rope as to what it actually was that we're seeing here, the structure. What I assumed and what it looked like was a southwest north from the looks of, or sorry, northwest south from the looks of it. Mostly western field at the end, and then a northern VZ going into a southern VZ from here. I'm hearing words from Tamitha though that it was a what was it? Something south, Tanya. I can't remember. Basically, it was a
Uh,
southern one instead, but
yep.
point is, we had a negative -13 VZ that just slowly decreased and stayed that way. So, and that was through the evening North America time. So then once we got into nightfall, we got all the way to, oh, oh, good, that didn't highlight anything. Point is, we got all the way to the end of the night, and we still had that negative VZ. So we had substorms at 10:30 Eastern here, and then 1 a.m. Eastern, and I want to say again at 4, but there wasn't anything
Yeah.
seen here. But 1 a.m. being the brightest, super amazing, like holy crap, I can't believe that we're seeing this substorm. Here, let's do this. There we go. Or just my laptop's gonna start picking things randomly. There we go. And then we had more -10, -8, da da da, and that went on until the end of the night. So it was a random, I don't want to say random occurrence, but I'm not sure what CME it was from or what event it was technically. It was just a random enhancement that started at about 11 UTC and it just didn't stop.
Yeah, it was good. That's all I
I'm
know.
not complaining, don't get me wrong, but at this point, as far as figuring out the source, there was just too much going on at once. It was hard to figure out.
All right. So as far as magnetosphere response, which was very interesting, I'm not going to go into details of what happened on Sunday night because with that structure, with the negative BZ that was flat, it's pretty much guarantee substorming at fairly regular periodic levels. But we had an interesting event actually Monday night um, with that fairly steady BZ that held for what seemed like forever and ever.
Yeah.
Let me
Yeah.
pull charisma on this one because and I'm gonna pull the GOES magnetometer too. So I don't know if it's that
Yeah,
clear.
Goes was pretty useful for
I am
making the
going
substorms
with
clear.
GOES on this one actually because it really shows the event really well. So there we go. Okay, so we have GOES magnetometer, and there are two of them. They watch slightly different areas, and they cross our midnight. So this is their magnetic midnight when they cross it at different times in relationship to our night side. So we're lucky to have them. I don't know if Europe has anything geostationary that actually has a magnetometer. And the day side reading looks a little different, so it's not something I would recommend using if GOES magnetometer is on your day side. It looks strange. There is a response, but it's very different. It's difficult to interpret because you have to take into account what solar wind is doing, what magnetosphere is doing. So it gets busy in no time. But what we're seeing here is initial substorm around this time, and that happened early for at least for the North America. So we missed most of it. It just wasn't there for us to see because it was still daylight. So it was happening. Aurora was actually out as soon as it was dark for us because it was that typical SMC aurora where energy is just getting dumped into ionosphere at a steady level. There is a little bit of growth happening, but it's not particularly exciting until it got to a substorm. So one substorm happened here. BZ was still holding steady, so there was still loading going on, and you could see the response because this is loading. When GOES is going down, you know it's loading because the magnetotail magnetic field is getting lower. It hit really low number before it finally broken into substorm. I think it was at 7 something nanotesla at what point, so super low. I haven't seen numbers that low in ever since I started chasing, which wasn't that long ago.
It is pretty
But
low.
that it continued to load after that lovely substorm, and it finally released around this time. So all that picture with substorm that started the entire thing, and then further substorms that just continue at fairly periodic and predictable levels. It's about every 2 to 4 hours. It's called a sawtooth event. And you get fairly good aurora at almost predictable intervals. So when you see that steady BZ, you know you have to wait. It may be boring aurora for some time, but eventually it's going to break. You just have to wait for it. And I know that a lot of people kind of saw that blah aurora that was sort of bubbling and not doing anything, a lot of green, and they left. They went home. So two women arrived to take a look. They took a few pictures at the location where we were sitting, and they basically said, yeah, it's not particularly exciting, and they went home. And this substorm happened in about hour and a half after that, with beautiful red color and just corona overhead for my location. So I really felt bad for them leaving.
That red was intense too. Like we could easily see the red. And it was then and then Christian got it from his backyard, so that was kind of neat to see the you know us seeing at the higher latitude versus what he was saying and how it was just so much red.
And it
Yeah,
was visible. And so again, Bortle 7 here, granted, the camera brought it out obviously way more, but you could, if you just stared for a few minutes, and we're talking lights everywhere, you could see that the sky was not just dark. There was color to it, and a few times there was red, at least to my eyes.
so yeah,
Insane. Now,
that
I
was
can see
cool.
why most people miss it, though, being in a city, because if you're not paying attention to it, you are absolutely not going to see it.
Yeah.
So get out of the city to see the aurora,
Get out, get out.
or just get out in general.
It was reported as visible and definitely on camera in Texas. That substorm that happened at
Yeah, you're
midnight.
right. Because I did see I think Tamitha reposted it. I think
Hmm.
it was the Dallas Fort Worth area, which is
Yep.
Crazy.
yeah, that's pretty crazy. And that was just a G3. So I guess if we want to talk about we go back to the KP and G scale or whatever.
Sure.
Um, so this was just a G3, but it was quite spectacular, visually. So you can't judge all of them based on, what scale it is. I mean, it can give you an idea of how intense it could be, but um, it's not the end all be all in what it looks like visually, because that's how the magnetosphere responds to
My
what's going on.
favorite part, I was noticing that the G3 alert as well that night went out after the activity.
Of course it
So it was
did.
about 2 or 3 minutes before it finally started fading. So then, if you were
Yeah.
to go out based on that notice, you would have missed the best part of it.
I
Yep.
kind of notice, when you're out there, because you'll notice when word gets out or the alerts happen, because we're sitting there watching all this stuff unfold, and then all of a sudden you see a bunch of cars. So it's good. It's yeah. Don't chase the KP alerts. Just don't. Like it's
I mean, unless you like missing things, I guess that's fine then.
yeah. It doesn't do you any favors. But so that was cool. Sawtooth event. Yeah. I guess we're gonna go over that more in depth eventually. I think right. That was the plan.
Oh, sure, yeah, we should go over
As,
plenty of
as to
magnetospheric
what
stuff.
as to what it
Yep.
is. So that'll be a subject for another time if we get to that, because we seem to have
We
to
get
not
derailed every week now.
we've been getting derailed every week. So I don't know.
We're either covering a flare and CME that is about to happen or maybe
Yeah,
happening, and the kind of the review of recent events pretty much every week. Yeah,
yeah. So
So join us next week where we won't get to review this storm at all because something else is going to happen.
yeah. So we have a plan, sorta. Our plan gets derailed, but it's okay. Here we are.
That's the space
yeah,
weather world.
yep,
It is.
I'll
So
take
anyway,
it over no activity.
yeah, it will. Yeah, this has been pretty exciting, even with the lack of sleep. It's been really exciting. So
for sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. But
So,
anyway,
and just a very quick note on another thing, because I know a lot of people use Ovation. So Ovation model does have data on how well it performs. So overall accuracy is about 77%. Forecast where aurora is not predicted, but actually seen is 26%. So you're missing every
Wow.
fourth aurora if you follow Ovation. And a false alarm of 14%, which you
Interesting.
can probably tolerate. But in terms of true positive, where aurora is predicted and actually seen is 26%, 26%, sorry, 86%. So it's not bad. And the thing is, for major storms, like Gannon storm in May, just about anything will predict that aurora is going to happen. It's just such a big event. You will max out Ovation very easily, and if you are close to north, yeah, you're going to see it. And with how major that event was and how intense the substorms were, there was good visibility. But when it comes to trusting Ovation, it's fine to use it knowing its limitation. And it has many limitations. So don't go
Cool.
by the probabilities of seeing aurora because unfortunately that performs even worse. So overall, um,
So it's
it's
another
good
guide.
enough to be operational. It's good enough to be a guide and a tool. It's not good enough to chase in real time.
What she
Good to
said.
have statistics on that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah. So anyway, that's our rant of the day.
Actually, there's a
Another
few
one
of
of
them,
many.
Yeah, there
right?
were a few. There were a few. But you know, it's important to go over because of just, the media hype behind all these things that happen and just a lot of uh the way the terms get conflated and thrown around. And a lot of it's not, it's none of it's, well, I don't want to say none of it is. A lot of it isn't intentional. It's just misunderstanding of things and being able to separate out like that. For example, we have a solar radiation storm going on right now. So if you look at the EPAM, it's going to be elevated because we have solar protons. um and I guess Glendale sent out a thing about a proton event. So you have to be able to know what these different phenomena are, so that way you can mitigate, getting confused, is for lack of better terms. So the solar radiation storm is going to mess with EPAM. It's probably not going to be super reliable right now, but
And ACE data, just to make that
oh
clear.
yeah,
So
yeah,
if
and
you're looking
ACE.
at the real-time solar wind stuff, switch over to Discover if you have at least, if you're on the website, Swipsies, because otherwise you're going to start seeing bad speed, density, and temperature data from ACE while it's an S3 specifically, which doesn't look like it's going to be very long. It looks like they're just skirting the line, but usually that's around the time it starts having bad data.
Good to know. Yeah, so it's a good thing we got at least two satellites up there to watch this thing.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, we need more. We need more.
lots more.
More
We're still
birds.
in its infancy though, so
Yeah, more birds in the sky. So anyway, if that's I can be pretty safe in calling this if there's no other burning questions out there.
nope. Looks like a bunch of just people from Tasmania and New Zealand talking.
Okay.
Which, good morning, all of you.
Yeah. Good morning. Thanks for joining. Hopefully you'll get to see whatever's coming.
Should be a 24-hour event, is my guess.
Yeah, probably. So maybe we'll get something out of it.
I'm
But
thinking so.
anyway, thanks all. I guess
Cool.
cool. I guess we'll let you be, and then maybe next week we'll get back on our regular scheduled program and cover something. Maybe not.
The
Maybe
sun doesn't change our mind.
we'll get another X flare or something crazy, and then we'll be doing this again.
All
So
right.
it's all fun.
Let's hope not, because I'm assuming Tanya just doesn't want to do this anymore every week.
We're tired. We need it. We're tired. We need a break, but it's all good. So anyway, appreciate you all being here, and until next time,
Thanks, everybody.
again.